What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing a ranked tier list. So we're ranking every brawler in the game from F tier to S tier based on how good they are in ranked. So if you're stuck in ranked, then this will probably be able to help you out. You'll know what brawlers to pick, what brawlers to ban. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get straight into this here, starting in the F tier. The worst brawler in the game is Sam. So I'm not going to talk too much about these F tier brawlers because it's pretty obvious why they're bad. But Sam, he's literally just a brawler that feeds the enemy super over and over. He'll just keep going in, dying. He really can't do anything. Half his abilities just need to be completely reworked. They're just useless. Alright, the next brawler in F tier is Grom. Now, I'm sure no one's surprised about this one. Obviously, up in the higher ranks, Grom's attacks are just way too hard to hit. It's just so easy to avoid them. And he just has very little impact on the game. He's so easily countered as well. Any form of aggro and Grom is completely shut down. Alright, next in the F tier is El Primo. Once again, probably no one's surprised about this one. Obviously, this brawler lacks any range. He struggles to get close to anyone without feeding a lot of super. He's basically just a walking super feeding totem until he just gets his super from taking damage. And even when he gets his super, he struggles to make an impact on the game. His super used to be so powerful, but now it just feels like he's being completely power crept. Right, next in the F tier is Jackie. So once again, this brawler lacks any range, but unlike El Primo, Jackie at least has a speed gadget to try and close the distance, and her super at least pulls people towards her. But her lack of range is really just what's making her not good in the meta. Jackie is at least able to counter a few meta brawlers, like she's a good counter to Shade, for example. But other than that, just don't use Jackie. Alright, next in the F tier, Maisie. Yeah, Maisie, everyone knows this brawler sucks. Literally no one ever plays Maisie in ranked. Like, I can't even tell you the last time I've seen one. Her attack's just way too inconsistent. It's, like, just not worth playing her. Especially in a meta where there's a lot of mobility with the higher up tier brawlers, and they can just easily dodge around Maisie's shots. Alright, next, Mr. P is in the F tier, which pains me to say because Mr. P is one of my favourite brawlers. But Mr. P just has zero ways to defend himself in this highly aggressive meta. Loads of brawlers can just completely run him down. He literally can't do anything to stop them. He lacks damage. His super just isn't what it used to be. Like, the porters, sure they can be sometimes annoying, but so many brawlers just deal insane damage that they can just delete the porters so fast that they just aren't even doing anything. Alright, this one may be surprising to some people, but I've put Eve in the F tier. I mean, Eve definitely does have some use cases in, like, some knockout maps, some heist maps, but basically, ever since Angela released, Angela's just doing it a lot better. And especially nowadays, there's actually a lot of brawlers that can walk on water. And Eve is just, I don't know, she just lacks the power that other brawlers have. Next, we've got Dynamite in the F tier. I mean, throwers are just really struggling right now, of course, with the highly aggressive meta. And also, like, Griff in the meta with Warbreak as well. And Dynamite, especially out of all of them, yeah, he's just lacking defense, really. The attacks are hard to hit if you're up close, and yeah, his gadget takes like a long time to charge. There's just no reason to ever pick Dynamite. Alright, and now this one may be a little harsh, but I've put Pam down here in the F tier. And the reason Pam is down here is because basically, a lot of meta brawlers right now just completely hard counter a Pam. You've got like Lou, Griff, Crow. Like, there's just so many brawlers right now to counter Pam. And on top of that, she's got a really slow unload speed with her attack, which is really bad in a meta of brawlers with mobility and stuff like that. And she's basically just never played anywhere. Even in Hot Zone now, like, you never ever see a Pam. Alright, and that's all of the F tier brawlers in the game right now. So, we're going to go ahead and move on to the D tier brawlers. Okay, so starting off in the D tier is Larry and Laurie. Once again, it's just throwers aren't great right now, and Larry doesn't really have any way to defend himself. Also, Laurie, the super bot, is also just not very good right now. It does like such tiny amounts of damage that it's just literally not a threat. Up next in the D tier is Bonnie. Bonnie recently had a damage buff, which has moved her up out of F tier, but she's still not very good. Oftentimes when she jumps in, she'll just instantly get traded out after getting a kill. Once again, a brawler where half the kit just needs to be completely reworked. Alright, Jessie's next in the D tier. Another brawler that recently got buffed. She got a projectile speed buff, which has definitely helped a bit. Without that, she would be F tier, but she's definitely still not good. She just doesn't do much damage. Once again, a brawler that really can't defend herself against aggro. And her turret just isn't very good right now either anyway. Alright, next in the D tier is Tick. He can be used as like a late pick in a couple knockout maps. Maybe like Flaring Phoenix and Bell's Rock. But other than that, there's literally no reason to ever use a Tick. Throwers are struggling right now. And Tick, there's just like better thrower options than Tick anyway. So yeah. Right, Daryl is next. Which may be surprising to some people. I'm not sure how people feel about Daryl, but a couple months back, however long it was when he got his rework to get 2 roles, he became really good. But ever since then, they nerfed him a couple times, and he just started falling off and then dropping, and now it's to the point where, yeah, he's back to being a pretty terrible brawler. Nowadays, the only place you'd ever maybe consider him is like a late pick in Safe Zone or something like that if the enemies have a low damage comp. Right, Bo is next in the D tier. I know randoms won't like this because a lot of randoms like Bo for some reason. I guess just because he's easy to play, but yeah, the biggest reason Bo's not good is because he lacks any defense abilities. I think if Bo had some form of like quick knockback or stun or something. I know he has that in his kit, but it's with his mines. If he had like a quick one that he could just do when someone gets up close, I honestly could see him being like an S tier brawler, because like I think he's got a good basic attack. It's just that he lacks any defense, so brawlers can just get up in his face and just delete him so fast. Alright, next is RT, which, I mean, people often consider RT to just be like a solid overall good brawler. But I haven't seen RT in such a long time. Like, there's no reason to ever pick RT in this meta. Other snipers are just way better. His attacks are extremely thin. I actually think that maybe they could do with buffing, like, the width of his attack slightly. Because compared to, like, every other sniper, his attack is just so much thinner than all of them for some reason. Even into aggro right now, you don't see RT. Alright, next is Draco. Draco is basically only usable in a single mode, and that's Hot Zone. But as a late pick in Hot Zone, he can be pretty dangerous, especially if the enemies don't have like any damage and like no tank counter. He can be pretty good, but other than that, he's just basically useless. Right, next is Rosa. Rosa can be a very dangerous last pick in a couple maps in Gem Grab and Brawl Ball. So you got like Sneaky Field, Center Stage, like Hard Rock Mine, Double Swoosh, basically a bunch of bushy maps where Rosa can actually be a dangerous last pick, where if the enemies don't have a counter, like if they don't have anything to break the grass or anything, it can actually be a really, really good and underrated pick. Alright, next is Doug. Doug, obviously, when he got his rework, was really strong, but then over time, he got into a couple nerfs, and then over time, the Doug strategy and knockout, where just healing and then giving you hypercharge to a teammate, it's just fallen off, and it's really not that good anymore. The only time you may see a Doug now is he can be a pretty good counter to Shade, maybe in a couple grassy maps like Sneaky Field, Center Stage, and maybe in like parallel plays. But yeah, other than that, Doug's pretty bad. Right, Lily is next in the D tier. A lot of people still think Lily's good for some reason. I don't get it, because she's just not. I think ever since they done the gadget change to it being like a cooldown, I mean, even before that, I personally thought Lily was just falling off. But, like, obviously she has no range. Honestly, her damage is kind of lacking. She's only got 2 ammo. And it feels like up close, so many other brawlers just beat her in that 1v1 interaction, which basically just makes her pointless, because if Lily's not winning her 1v1 interactions up close, what is she even doing? Alright, we got Juju next, who is basically good in one map. She's a good last pick in parallel plays, and I mean, other than that, you don't really see her. I think Gree just isn't that good anymore, to be honest. I think a nice buff could be a speed buff to Gree. That's something I think it could have, because it's so slow, it's just easy to escape it. So yeah. Alright, next in the D tier, which may be surprising to some people, it's Sirius. Now obviously Sirius was, you know, this big ultra legendary 100th brawler. He was completely broken. But since then he's been nerfed so many times, and at this point Sirius just kind of sucks, in my opinion. He's basically completely useless unless the enemies have tanks on their team. Because if the enemies don't have tanks, he literally takes so long to get his shadows, because his attack's pretty difficult to hit unless they're a tank that just runs in, and then in that case he gets fed a lot of shadows. But even in that situation, there are just so many way better tank counters in the meta right now that Sirius just doesn't really have any place in the meta. Alright, we got another thrower here in the D tier, which this one, man, it kind of sucks, because this brawler is one of my favorites in the game. But it's Ziggy. Obviously, Ziggy was completely broken when they buffed his attack delay, but then they half reverted that, as well as nerfed his supercharge rate, and Ziggy's just completely dropped off again. He can be used as a last pick in some situations if the enemies have literally like no mobility on their team, but it's just too risky to pick Ziggy any other time other than last, because he's probably the easiest brawler in the game to counter. Like any form of assassin, like with mobility, or any tank that he just can't kill, and they just run it down on him and he just can't do anything. Alright, next is Amber. Amber used to be just this solid all-around brawler that you could pick basically anywhere, but she just lacks the damage now, I think. She also just lacks defense capabilities. She can't defend herself against aggro, and there's just much, much better tank counters in the meta right now to pick than an Amber. Right, next is Mo, who, I mean, once again, I quite like Mo, but it's very clear to see he's just not that good in this meta. Even with a couple tanks in the meta. You know, you got like Damien, Bolt up at the top of the meta, but he just can't deal with those brawlers. Like, he should be able to counter tanks, but when Mo can't even counter some of the top tanks in the meta, just goes to show that he's not that good. Right, we got Miko next, who, if it weren't for Heist, he'd be down in the F tier. Obviously, in Heist, in the lower ranks, he's insanely good, because people will just try and defend him, and then he'll just keep getting safe damage over and over. In the higher ranks, he's definitely not as good. He's still usable in higher ranks as a last pick in Heist, but yeah, other than that, he's just not good anywhere else. Maybe as a last pick in Knockout, you could pair him with a kit, but other than that, just don't play Miko. He's not that good. Okay, next is Willow in the D tier, who, another thrower, but she can actually defend herself against aggro if she has super, because she can just mind control them and just, you know, take them away. So that's one thing going for her. Obviously, she's always going to be pretty solid in Brawl Ball because of her super. She can just get some free goals with it, obviously. Just control the enemy, then walk the ball into the goal. Still, the massive amount of aggro can just overwhelm her still in the meta. So, she's just not that good anymore. Alright, next is Janet in the D tier. A brawler that you just don't see anywhere anymore. Even in Gem Grab, where she used to always be considered one of the best gem carriers, because she could just get all the gems, then press super within the last couple seconds, and then, you know, you literally can't kill her. But right now, you literally never see a Janet. And I think there's a couple reasons. I think she feels very squishy. Like, I think she could do with a bit of a health buff. And then also, I just think she's also lacking damage in a massively high damage meta. She just can't really keep up. Right, next is Gus, who, I mean, some people may be surprised about Gus all the way down in D tier, but he's really fallen off in my opinion. Sure, he's got some easy to hit attacks, but right now he's lacking damage, and other snipers, especially with recent damage buffs going on, just completely destroy a Gus in a 1v1 situation. So in these open bounty and knockout maps, other snipers are just way superior to Gus right now. Alright, next is Spike, who got a recent damage buff, and I honestly thought it may improve Spike quite a bit, but yeah, Spike is just not really that great right now. I'm pretty sure they nerfed his super charge rate to compensate for the damage buff, which I don't think was the right move, because it can take quite a while to get a super now. Spike can honestly get ran down pretty easily, because he's a squishy brawler. I think they need to revert the nerf to the super charge rate, and then see where Spike lands after that. Alright, next is Frank in the D tier. Basically, he's a good last pick if the enemies have low damage comps. And that's it, basically. You can't early pick a Frank because he's a very easy brawler to counter. So many counters to him. And he also just feeds the enemies a lot of super. But if they do have a low damage comp, then you last pick Frank and they just don't have the damage to kill you. And then he's really good. So, yeah. You got B next. Another sniper who is just being outclassed right now. With the recent damage buffs, to like Piper. Piper's really excelling up in the top of the meta right now. But B, yeah, I mean, B's really, really squishy. Obviously, her attack is quite slow compared to other snipers. I mean, she's not even really that good of a tank counter right now. When B's not countering tanks, I mean, yeah, it's going to be pretty clear that she's not that good. So if she can't be good against other snipers, but then she's not even that good against tanks right now, like, what does she really do? There's just no reason to ever really pick her. Alright, now this one may be extremely surprising to some people. I've put Naja down here in the D tier. I think after all the nerfs she's got recently, Naja's completely fallen off. The main thing is her super now. Her super is basically completely useless now, because the splash radius when dropping the super down has been nerfed. It's really small now, and it feels like you never ever hit anyone with the super now with Naja. Alright, we've got Mandy next, who did get a pretty crazy damage buff. She does nearly 3,000 damage with each basic attack now. But I think when it comes down to it, the whole gimmick with Mandy where you have to stand still, I mean, I just don't really foresee her being amazing anytime soon, really, just because, obviously standing still, I mean, it's not ideal. You don't really want to be standing still in a game, She lacks any form of defense against aggro. It's obviously like Piper and Pierce, they've got knockbacks. Mandy doesn't have anything like that. So all she's really got going for her is that she's got high damage. Alright, next in the D tier is Buster. Now, Buster is honestly just fallen off dramatically. He used to always be like the best brawler in knockout, just group up with your team, automatically charge up that shield, and then in the late game you can just win easily. I think maybe it's his damage. I think he could do with like a slight damage buff right now. Alright, we've got Sandy next in the D tier. I mean, Sandy can be pretty good counter to spawnables like Tara. And obviously he can be pretty solid in grassy maps, but other than that, he obviously lacks range, and right now at the top of the meta, obviously there's these tanks that, yeah, he can charge a super from, but he literally just can't kill these tanks, and they can just run up on him and kill him. Right, next up is Squeak, who, whilst he can't really defend himself against aggros, I think the abilities he has with the slows in his kit is actually pretty solid as like a semi-tank counter, to be honest. He can be pretty good in a couple bounty maps, as well as some Brawl Ball situations, surprisingly, in these grassy maps, like Center Stage, for example, is a late pick with the Residue gadget. Right, next is Nita, a Buffy Brawler actually being this slow. I mean, we had Spike as well, who was a Buffy Brawler, but yeah, Nita, she's lacking the range right now. If she's got a good matchup, where they've got like low range brawlers, she'll just be cycling through bears like crazy. But then if you pick her and then the enemies just go brawlers that outrange her, she'll do nothing all game, and probably won't even get a single bear. So it's just a very matchup dependent brawler, probably only a last pick in a couple grassy maps. Right, next is Belle. Another sniper who's just completely outclassed right now. Obviously, she doesn't really have a defense capability, like no stun, no knockback. But her super can allow her to just kill people really fast with the damage boost. But compared to other snipers, she's really lacking damage. There's no reason to pick her over like Piper or Pierce or Angelo. And she's got like one good map right now where she's actually worth picking from what I can think of, and that's Out in the Open, because you can get some nice bounce shots with her reverse polarity gadget. But other than that, there's no reason to ever pick a Belle. Right, and ending off the D tier here, we have Cordelius. Now, maybe this is a bit harsh with Cordelius. Maybe I could have put him low C tier, but I just think that he's really fallen off, especially with all the tank counters in the meta. Obviously, he's not a tank, but he's got very short range, obviously. And he's going to be kind of countered by the same things that counter tanks due to his lack of range. There's a couple of brawlers right now that he really struggles against, like Griff, especially just opening up the map, making it really hard for Cord. But obviously, Cord is still a really good counter into some assassins and tanks. And obviously, he's still a really good counter to kit comps in Knockout Bounty. So just for that, he does still have a use case in the meta. So he's not completely useless, but I do think maybe a little buff could be helping out Cordelius a bit. So that's going to be all the D tier brawlers there. So let's just go ahead and move on to the C tier now. Okay, so starting off the C tier is Chuck. Obviously, Chuck's only good in heist. That's the only reason he's even up here. It's because he's just so good in heist, though. So I can't really put him any lower just because of how insanely good he is in heist. And surprisingly, he can be a sneaky last pick in a couple of knockout maps as well. But obviously, if it weren't for heist, he'd probably be down in F tier. Alright, next is Shelly. Maybe this is being a bit generous saying Shelly C tier, but she can be okay into like Bolt and Damien sometimes. I mean, she's not amazing, but she's always a solid pick in these grassy brawl maps. Like, you can go her in sneaky fields, center stage, and gets goals with her super. But other than that, she's just pretty average, maybe a little bit below average right now. Okay, Ashe is next in the C tier, and the recent addition of the tank trait to Ashe has definitely helped him out a bit, but he's still being outshone a bit by some other tanks in the meta, but he is now a solid option in some grassy maps. Alright, BB's next, and BB's only really seen as like a late pick counter to certain things. She can be pretty good as a late pick in heist, surprisingly in a couple of open maps as well, like Safe Zone and Kaboom Canyon. She can be a pretty good last pick if the enemies don't really have any way to defend themselves against a BB, and she's just able to run them down. And obviously, she's also just good in Hot Potato in general. But outside of heist, she's not amazing. Okay, Buzz is next. And, I mean, Buzz is just a brawler where, you know, he's never, like, broken, but he's also never, like, terrible. He's just kind of, like, meh. You can pick Buzz, like, towards the end of the draft into certain things in grassy maps and make him work. Obviously, just the stun with his super is pretty good at countering some brawlers, but there are definitely better options right now. Alright, this next brawler is, in my opinion, one of the most overrated brawlers, and that's Charlie. Some people seem to still think Charlie's really good, because I see her quite often. She's just not anymore, in my opinion, guys. Charlie has definitely dropped off in the meta. Especially with like Damien, Bolt, these brawlers just completely hard counter a Charlie. She can't do anything. Alright, next is Poco, and Poco's kind of a weird one because you never ever see Poco picked in ranked, but he's genuinely not bad. Like, he can have some good matchups into some of the top meta brawlers right now, like with his mainly with his protective tunes gadget. Like, he's pretty good into Crow, into Lou, just because of that gadget. So he's honestly quite underrated right now. Alright, next is Bull. Now, Bull has definitely dropped off a lot as well since his buffies. He's still solid in Heist, and maybe as a late pick in like Brawl Ball, but other than that, you aren't really going to be going Bull too often. He's mainly just like a niche counter pick now. Okay, Jae-young's next in the C tier. Honestly, he's just not really that good, and it mainly comes down to the existence of Crow, to be honest. Crow just completely hard counters a Jae-young, to be honest. Like, his healing's just so bad when there's a Crow, and he also doesn't really have a way to defend himself against aggro. Alright, next is Gray. Now, honestly, Gray, I'm kind of surprised he didn't get better in the meta. He had like a pretty big damage buff, but it didn't really seem to affect Gray too much. I mean, basically the only place you'll ever see Gray sometimes is in Hot Zone to just teleport a tank into the zone over and over. Even in like Knockout and Bounty, aren't really seeing Gray at all, really, to be honest. Even when there's like Piper and Pierce meta, yeah. Gray just isn't amazing right now. Right, next is Melody. Melody's mainly here, obviously, because of Heist, but she can be used outside of Heist, like, genuinely, sometimes as a late pick in Bounty, she can be solid, but other than that, mainly stick to Heist with Melody, and she's pretty good. Alright, next up is Trunk. Trunk is a brawler where a couple metas ago, he was actually starting to rise a lot, in my opinion. Like, if this was a meta or so ago, he may have been A tier. But right now, because there's a lot of tank counters at the top of the meta, he's not doing amazing. The reason he is still in C tier, though, is because Trunk is a very, very good counter to Shade. And Shade is obviously a very dangerous brawler in ranked. So just being able to be a big counter to that brawler is pretty helpful. Alright, next in the C tier is Gale. And the main reason Gale's up here is because Gale is probably one of the best counters you can have to a Bolt, and obviously Bolt's very strong right now. And, I mean, Gale did get a recent supercharge or super damage buff. That didn't impact him too much. It's mainly just that he's a really good counter to Bolt, and when some of the other tank counters are banned, you can go Gale. He's solid. Okay, next up is Ali. And Ali has definitely dropped off as well, in my opinion. There was a glitch going on with her. I actually don't know whether this is fixed or not, but regardless of that, I think she'd stay C tier either way. Yeah, she's just definitely fallen off a bit because right now Griff is insanely strong, and Griff just opens up the map so fast. And obviously, when the maps open, Ali is completely useless, so she is struggling a bit right now. But she can still be a really good last pick in a couple gem grab and Brawl Ball maps. Okay, up next in the C tier is Carl. And Carl, once again, another brawler who got a big damage buff, but I think with Carl, it's more noticeable than, like, Gray, for example, because Carl was already somewhat solid in, like, Heist, and, yeah, especially in Heist now, in, like, Safe Zone, Kaboom Canyon. With his Flying Hook gadget, he can be really, really strong. It's just you've got to be a bit careful about early picking Carl, because Carl is one of those brawlers where he just has clear counters, and he's very easy to counter. Okay, next up is Leon. Now, Leon, I hate Leon, but he is still C tier. He did receive a nerf to his Lollipop gadget, which lowered the health of it, thank God. There was a glitch. I think this glitch still exists somehow. It's existed since his buffies, where you stay invisible for like an extra second after leaving the Lollipop. Pretty sure that's still in the game, and until that remains, he'll stay usable, but he has definitely dropped off. Alright, another brawler who's dropped off here is Chester. I mean, people still think he's amazing for some reason in ranked, but yeah, Chester's definitely dropped off with the nerfs he had to his gadget and like the super damage. I mean, he's still a decent tank counter, but there's just so many better options in the current meta. Okay, next is Berry, who is actually kind of an underrated brawler. You really don't see too much Berry, but genuinely, he can be very, very good in like Hot Zone and in a couple knockout maps as well. Surprisingly, he can be pretty good, like Flaring Phoenix, for example. If the enemies have a low damage comp, you can just late pick Berry, and they really can't do anything about the crazy amounts of healing Berry can provide. But obviously, with Crow being meta, Berry can't be really any higher than the C tier. Okay, next up is Tara, another underrated brawler in my opinion, actually. She received a reload speed buff pretty recently, and it's definitely helped her out quite a bit. She's actually really, really good in gem grab right now. Not really anywhere outside of that, but in gem grab, she is really, really strong, especially because of her super and her hypercharge. Okay, next up in the C tier is Nani, and obviously with a bunch of snipers in the meta right now, you know, you got Piper, Pierce, really strong in the meta, and Nani is just a good counter sniper to them, but you can't really play her outside of Knockout or Bounty. It's basically limited to those two game modes with Nani, so that's the reason she's not really any higher than C tier. And then ending off the C tier is Sprout. Sprout received a big damage buff recently, and he's just an insane last pick in Knockout and Bounty. Like, genuinely, if you get a really good matchup, Sprout can actually just 1v3. It's crazy how good he is as a last pick. But he's not any higher because you cannot pick him any other time except for a last pick because he's so easy to counter. So that's all of the C tier there. So let's go ahead and move on to the B tier. Alright, starting off in the B tier, we have Fang. Now, Fang is a pretty good counter to some assassins that are high in the meta right now. Like, he's good into Edgar, he's good into Mortis, he's good into Kit, and he's also just a solid last pick in Bounty and Knockout right now. He's a good last pick to counter some snipers as well as Kit comps. So he's solid right now. Next up in the B tier is Colette. Now, some people may be confused and think that she's still really strong, but trust me, Colette, after the nerf she's received to her gadget and her supercharge rate, she has dropped a fair amount here. B tier might even be a bit generous. I could see her being C tier as well. Colette is just not that good anymore, really. She's basically not being picked anymore at all. She's honestly struggling to even counter some tanks right now. Like, she can't even counter Bolt or Damien. She's just not that amazing right now. But just because it's not been that long, I'll still put her in B tier for now. It's not like she's awful. She's still pretty solid. You can get away with using her, especially in like Heist, but there are definitely better options than her right now. Alright, so next is Lola. Lola is actually kind of on the rise right now because she's a really good counter to Meg, and obviously Meg's a really strong brawler right now. So having a brawler that's just solid overall and just able to counter out Meg, pretty good. So yeah, with Lola you can basically play her anywhere as well. She's just like an all-around solid brawler. Okay, next up in the B tier is Barley. Barley received a buff to his super unload speed. It hasn't really done too much. It's a little bit helpful, I guess, but it hasn't done too much. Barley was already just kind of solid as a late pick in a couple instances in like Brawl Ball, Hot Zone, and maybe Hot Potato. He's solid, but obviously you can only really go Barley as a last pick. Okay, next up is Mina. And Mina's damage nerf to her third attack has definitely made her fall off a fair amount. She's still solid. You can still use her mostly anywhere. It's just a matchup dependent brawler, really. So you can't really go her as like a first pick because then you just won't really get any good matchups as her. But as like a 2-3 pick in the draft, she's solid. You can still get away with using Mina. Okay, next up is Angelo. Angelo's just always been a really good brawler since he released. I don't think there's really been a single time where Angelo's been bad. And yeah, he's still pretty solid right now. Obviously, he's really good in maps of water, mainly. So he's pretty good in a couple heist maps and knockout maps. He can be used sometimes in a couple other open maps as well, maybe like dry season, but not so much anymore with all the aggro. But in those water maps, he's still a really, really good pick. Okay, next up in the B tier, we've got Kaze. Main reason Kaze's up in B is because of Heist. Obviously, she's a really strong pick in Heist. And in Bounty as well, she can be used to get Blue Star. Outside of that, she's not amazing. She's not really good in Brawl Ball or Gem Grab at all. Okay, we've got Finks next in the B tier. Finks is kind of an odd one. Sometimes he feels like he's really strong. Sometimes he feels like he doesn't really do too much. Right now, you don't really see him in Hot Zone, which is where you would typically see him. Right now, you kind of see him in Heist a bit. He's a solid defender in Heist, especially in like Kaboom Canyon, because he's actually pretty good into aggros, believe it or not. And he can actually be good as a late pick in Knockout as well, specifically to counter a Kit comp with his stun gadget, because it knocks Kit off. Okay, next in the B tier we have Colt. Colt is obviously one of the best brawlers in Heist, maybe even like the best, just behind 8-bit probably. And obviously, he's got his broken ammo steal gadget. That's basically just completely carrying Colt right now. If it weren't for that gadget, he'd probably be down in D tier. That gadget alone is just completely carrying him. It's such a broken gadget. It makes him essentially a counter to tanks and assassins, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, obviously you can use him in Brawl Ball as well to open up the map. You can use him in Knockout Bounty to open up the map. It's just, it all comes down to his gadgets, really. He's basically carried by gadgets. And then ending off in the B tier, we don't have many in B tier here, but it's Hank. Maybe you guys might think I'm a bit biased towards Hank, but he's genuinely a good brawler. I think people just don't understand how to play him, maybe. But he's genuinely a really good brawler as a late pick into low damage comps, and especially in a couple maps like mainly thinking of parallel plays, he's really good. You got like Pinball Dreams, Triple Dribble, Open Business, like he's good in a lot of places as a last pick. So that's going to be it for the B tier. There wasn't too many in the B tier here this time, but let's just go ahead and move on to the A tier now. Alright, starting off the A tier, we have Ollie. Ollie, a brawler that's very underrated. You don't really see him in ranked at all, but he's genuinely a really strong pick. I've been using him quite a bit recently, especially in Knockout. As a late pick in Knockout, he's really, really strong still. And but obviously with Ollie, you can't just go in and like 1v3 on your own, because you do like no damage. You're basically relying on your team's support with Ollie. He can also be surprisingly good in gem grab, because he can get some sneaky kills onto the gem carrier. So yeah, Ollie pretty good right now. Okay, next in the A tier is Otis. He has dropped out of the S tier, simply due to other tank counters around him getting better. He didn't get nerfed or anything. He's still a good brawler, but he's not quite S tier anymore. But obviously, he's still got high range, high damage. You can make him work in most places. Okay, next up is Gene. Now, Gene, he's very, very strong, obviously, in Knockout and Bounty. If he was good in other modes as well, he'd probably be S tier, but he's only good in those two modes, really. But because of how insanely good he is in those modes, he is up in the A tier. Obviously, his pull is the big thing about him. You can pull enemies, get some clutch kills, and basically change the game in Knockout or Bounty. Alright, we've got Penny next up in the A tier. Penny, I see quite a lot in Ranked. Maybe a bit overrated, but in Heist especially, she is genuinely so powerful in Heist. In a couple of maps like Safe Zone especially, she's just so strong. You can also play her in a couple of Hot Zone maps as well, like Ring of Fire, Dueling Beetles. You can even sometimes make her work as a later pick in Bounty or Knockout. She's just a good, versatile brawler, really. Okay, next up is Edgar. Some people may be surprised that Edgar is not S tier. I do think people overrate him a bit, because he is very easily countered, right? But he is a powerful brawler as a last pick, but only as a late pick in the draft. Like, if you go him early, he's just so easy to counter. But obviously, if you get a good matchup as Edgar, it's basically game over. The enemies really can't do anything if they don't have a counter to the Edgar. Okay, next up is Kit. Kit, I've definitely been seeing drop down a bit. Like, I'm not seeing Kit comps that much anymore in Knockout. Probably due to the high amount of tank counters up in the meta right now. But even with like Bolt up at the top of the meta, I'm surprised we're not seeing like Bolt Kit or anything. We're just not really seeing Kit as much. But he is still very, very powerful with that Knockout and Bounty cheese you can do with tanks or like Mortis or something. And he is actually seeing his way into the gem grab meta as well. He can be really, really good in gem grab because of his hypercharge, which can just get easy kills onto the gem carrier. Okay, up next we've got Kenji. Kenji, ever since he's released, he's been good. I don't think there's ever been a time where Kenji's been a bad brawler. You can just play him into most things. He's a really solid, versatile brawler. Obviously, really powerful super that you get the iframes with it. His hypercharge is still really strong as well. And obviously he has the self-healing. Just a really strong brawler overall. Okay, we got Byron up next in the A tier. Byron is one of these snipers who is doing really, really good in the meta right now. So obviously, you can play him as a sniper in these long-range open maps, or you can play him as a supportive healer in other maps, even if they've got loads of walls. So he's quite versatile. He can be a little weak to aggro, but he does have his booster shots gadget, which can actually often sometimes allow him to trade when he gets killed by an aggro, because of how much damage it does up close. And obviously his super is just really powerful, just this big damage or big healing splash. So yeah, you can never really go wrong with a Byron. Okay, we've got Rico up next. Now, a lot of people thought Rico's buffies would make him a worse brawler, because obviously they removed his old multi-ball launcher gadget, which helped him against aggro. But while he has gotten worse against aggro, basically everything else he's gotten way better at. Both his gadgets are actually surprisingly good. You can use the multi-ball launcher turret to bounce your shots or to just block damage. And then, in my opinion, the better gadget is the bouncy castle. It just does absurd damage and slows people. So yeah, Rico, genuinely a solid pick right now in a lot of maps with walls. Okay, up next in the A tier, we got Piper. Now, Piper's damage buff has insanely improved her. Like, she's skyrocketed up in the meta. Any open map, you can just go Piper. She's insanely strong. She does so much damage now. And especially against other snipers, she just hard counters other snipers. Maybe aside from Nanny, obviously. But, yeah. And obviously, even if the enemies have aggro, you can swap over to your knockback gadget, and that will help you deal with that. So yeah, she's just a really, really strong brawler right now. But obviously, just stay away from closed maps with her. Okay, we've got Glowbert up next. Now, Glowbert is an interesting one. I believe he's a very unpopular brawler, because you literally never ever see him played for some reason. But he's such a strong brawler right now. The only thing holding him back from S tier is the fact that Crow still is up at the top of the meta, and obviously Crow completely hard counters Glowbert. But if Crow's banned out, you can play Glowbert in any open map basically. Obviously in these open maps he's really strong, but you can also play him in more closed maps and pair him with like a Griff to wall break, and he's just really strong. The fact that you can heal your team and damage the enemies at the same time. His super's insane to save himself against aggros. Obviously, he's got the dash gadget as well. Just a very, very strong brawler right now. Okay, up next in the A tier, we have Shade. Obviously, Shade is pretty much always been one of the best last pick brawlers ever since he's released, basically. It basically comes down to, if the enemies don't have a way to counter Shade, then Shade's just going to completely 1v3 them, basically. He's that good of a last pick. But there are a couple counters to him. You've got like Lou and Lumi with the ice. You've got like Damien and Hank and Trunk as well, which can counteract Shade. So there are a couple counters to him. But if you get a really good Shade last pick game, you're just going to sweep the opponents. Okay, up next, Lou. Lou had a damage or an attack size buff, actually, recently. And that's definitely helped him so much in the meta. He's definitely solidified his place back in hot zone meta, as well as just a general tank counter that you can use basically anywhere just to counter tanks. We're seeing him a bit to counter out Bolt, as well as to counter out Damien. Yeah, he's just a really good brawler right now. Okay, we've got Mortis in the A tier next. Still, after receiving nerfs, Mortis remains as a really strong brawler. Has dropped out of S, but he's still high A tier, so yeah, his combo spinner gadget is still really what's carrying him, in my opinion. It's such a broken gadget with that damage increase it gets when the enemies are low. So he can just go in, swipe them a couple times with his attack, and then press the gadget, and it'll just kill them. Such a strong gadget. You can never really go too wrong with a Mortis later in the draft. Okay, we've got Pearl up next. Pearl has seen a massive increase in the meta. I believe she received a buff. I think it's like her basic attacks reduce her heat by less or something like that. And yeah, she's just able to keep her heat up, constantly deal this high damage. When her heat's high, she does just insane damage. She can just rip through any brawler, really. So obviously she's going to be good in knockout, bounty, but we're actually starting to see her outside of that as well in like a gem grab, as like a lane in double swoosh, or even as a gem carrier in a couple maps. She's got her super as well to defend herself against aggro. The only negative to Pearl really is just her hypercharge sucks. But even with a terrible hypercharge, she's managing to do this good in the meta. So imagine what it's like when her hypercharge gets reworked. Okay, we've got Ruffs up next in the A tier. Ruffs is very, very strong right now. He does a lot of damage, and his sandbags can be really useful against some single target brawlers. Even his other gadget is just pretty good for zoning. He's also got surprisingly long range, and what's something really useful about him is that his super obviously breaks walls, so you can open up the map for your team. Yeah, and obviously you can give your teammates hypercharges with his hyper, so yeah, you can never really go too wrong with a Ruff. He's just a really good brawler, basically anywhere. Okay, now this one, definitely a controversial one. We've got Gigi up here at the high A tier. Now, the only reason Gigi's up here is simply because of the meta around her. Top meta, like Meg, 8-Bit, Max, Griff. These brawlers shoot tons of projectiles, which just charges Gigi super insanely fast. So she's just able to cycle through like 20 supers in a game. This is literally the only reason she's meta, though. Once these projectile brawlers get nerfed and drop down, Gigi will drop straight back down to being one of the worst in the game, probably. But for now, while they're meta, Gigi is insanely strong, and you've got to try her out if you haven't. Okay, and ending off the A tier here, we have Stu. Now, Stu may be a bit better than he should be right now, because there is actually a glitch with his speed zone gadget, which I don't know how much faster it is, but it makes the speed boost faster than it should be. So that's very, very strong right now. But even without that, he's just a really solid brawler right now, because he's able to constantly dash around, and he's able to escape assassins and tanks pretty well, because he's just able to constantly dash around. So yeah, you can never really go wrong with him. He's just a safe pick into anything, really. So that's going to be it for the A tier. So now let's move on to the best brawlers in the game, the S tier brawlers. Okay, so starting off in the bottom of the S tier is Lumi. Lumi, obviously, she received that projectile speed buff a while ago. Ever since then, she's been really, really strong. Obviously, a really great counter to tanks. Really good in maps with walls because of her ice gadget. Getting people stuck on the ice, it's really strong. Obviously, she just does a lot of damage as well. Then you've got her super and hypercharge, which are both really powerful, obviously. Lock the enemies in place. And yeah, you can never really go too wrong with a Lumi. Okay, up next is Meg, who I've put towards the bottom of the S tier, because in my opinion, the only reason Meg's strong right now is because of her toolbox gadget. Ejecting from the mech, it just does tons of damage, and the knockback from it is the main thing. I actually think they need to remove the knockback from this gadget, to be honest. It's just way too good for a gadget. Like, this is one of the best gadgets in the entire game. It just provides way too much value for a gadget. And then charges up your super like 99% as well. It's just way too strong of a gadget. But yeah, she obviously received a couple nerfs a little bit ago, which dropped her down from like the top of the S tier down to like bottom S tier. But she's still really good, obviously. Okay, next up in the S tier is Meeple, which I hate to say, because man, I hate Meeple, bro. I absolutely hate Meeple, but he remains in the S tier. He got like a couple nerfs to his Rage Quit gadget. They did nothing. They need to just fundamentally nerf this gadget, not just like nerf the cooldown, nerf the radius. They need to either remove the knockback from it or remove the stun. Because why does it do both a knockback and a stun? It's ridiculous. But yeah, Meeple does high damage. He's got very versatile kit because he's got two insanely strong gadgets. Both of his gadgets are like some of the best two gadgets in the entire game. They are just so strong. And then obviously, you know, his super's very, very powerful as well. And his hypercharge. Like, everything about Meeple is just insane. Okay, up next in the S tier we have Pierce. Now, Pierce, another brawler I hate, because he just feels completely uncounterable when facing him. Biggest reason he's so strong is obviously his star power that adds the slow onto his final shot. And obviously his gadget as well, reloading the ammo. It just feels like this brawler has infinite ammo when I face it. Like, he's just constantly shooting out 3k slowing shots. And it feels like Pierce's shots as well are just so insanely easy to hit. Like, you'd think a brawler like Pierce should be a high skill cap brawler, you know? Like, you've got to hit your shots to get your ammo back. But that's really opposite. He's such a low skill brawler. His super is just broken as well. You can just auto aim a super onto someone, get an easy hit of like 3k damage. Like, Pierce is just so insanely strong. Okay, we've got another sniper coming up in the S tier. Next is Brock. Obviously, Brock got his buffies. They're very strong. He did have the knockback removed from his rocket fuel, thank God. So, he's dropped down a bit. Obviously, still in S tier, though. It's just that you can't always just early pick a Brock, because Brock does have some clear counters. Obviously, the main one being he's countered by other snipers. But you can just go Brock later off in the draft. You can pick him anywhere, knockout and bounty, really strong. You can also sometimes get away with him as a late pick, maybe in Brawl Ball to open the map, or maybe like Hot Zone in some open maps like Ring of Fire. Okay, up next in the S tier is Ems, who I can't believe I'm saying Ems is still in the S tier. She was among the first batch of the buffies, and she still, to this day, remains in the S tier. Right now, though, the main reason she's up in the S tier is because she completely shuts down Damien. Like, you literally cannot even pick Damien if Ems is open. It's crazy how much of a hard counter Ems is to Damien. And there's also still a glitch going on with Ems' gadget, her knockback, where I believe if you're true red or true blue, I don't know which one, the knockback on the gadget is just like 3 times farther than it should be. I don't know how that hasn't been fixed, because it's ridiculous. It's a stupid bug, and it makes the gadget completely broken. But yeah, aside from that, obviously, you've got her hype star power buffy, making her immune for like half a second. It's really strong. And then obviously her acid spray gadget as well. If the enemies don't have an aggro, you can swap to acid spray. Such a powerful gadget as well. Then her hypercharge buffy as well. Just the attack gets like way bigger. It's just so strong. Okay, and speaking of Damien, he's the next brawler in the S tier. Damien would be higher in the S tier, but simply because of Ems, he's not. But if Ems is banned out, you can pick Damien mostly freely. He's very strong, obviously. They, for some reason, whenever they nerf him, then they also add buffs to him as well. I don't get it. It's like they don't want Damien to fall off, but he's been broken ever since he released now. I think it's about time he falls off. Okay, next up in the S tier is 8-Bit. Now, 8-Bit, yes, he is definitely S tier, but he is very overrated in my opinion. Like, you'll see people just first picking him anywhere. Like, first picking Brawl Ball, first picking Hot Zone, first picking Gem Grab. You can't really do that with 8-Bit, guys. Yes, he's powerful, but he's very easy to counter because of his slow speed. Like snipers, for example, just completely hard counter an 8-Bit. So people will be first picking 8-Bit in like bounty or knockout, and then the enemies can just go like Piper, they can go Brock, they can go Pierce, they can go Byron. Like, so many brawlers just hard counter 8-Bit. So you cannot early pick him in those modes. The only place you can get away with first picking him is Heist, just because of how much damage he does on the safe. It's just insane. But obviously, he is still really good. Both his star powers are good, you know. You've got the speed if you're in a harder matchup. And then otherwise, you can just run the damage booster. It's so strong. Obviously, the extra credits buffy right now, ridiculous. The fact that it just bounces among the people and just does 1,000,000 damage, bro. It's just crazy. Okay, up next we have Max in the S tier. Everyone knows Max is good right now. It all comes down to the buffies with her. Getting 2 invulnerability dashes on the gadget is just insane. I honestly think they need to rework that buffy, because that is just ridiculous in my opinion. Like, I don't see a world where that could be balanced. It's just completely broken. And then you've also got the hypercharge buffy, which obviously just gives you insane supercharge. You're constantly cycling through like 3-4 supers with that. And then obviously you've got the star power buffy, which applies a shield to your whole team when you use super, which is just crazy. Like, that shield is just so insanely good with Max. Like, you can just use that, you know, on your tank or aggro on your team. They get shield, they get the speed, they can just run into the opponents. The opponents can't stop it. It's crazy. Max is so good right now. Okay, next up, another brawler that I hate, that I have to say is still S tier. But it's Crow. Crow, after all these nerfs, he still remains as a top 5 brawler in the game. I just can't believe this. Like, what? It's because they buffed his damage alongside the nerfs. I don't get why they did that. Now Crow just does like 1,000,000 damage. It's ridiculous. And then his slowing toxin right now as well, I think, is the strongest bit about him. The slowing toxin gadget does so much damage. The slow, the bounce, and it poisons. And for some reason, the poison of the slowing toxin gadget actually stacks with his basic attack poison. So that's pretty crazy. And it's got a really short cooldown as well. Like, that gadget just does everything. Okay, next up we've got a newcomer into the game, is Bolt, the 4th best brawler in the game right now. Bolt, you'd think Bolt would be easy to counter, but trust me, when you're actually in the draft and in the game, Bolt just feels unstoppable. Like, seriously. The unstoppable star power that makes him immune to all crowd control when using his super, it's just crazy broken, honestly. He can just pop that and then just run through anything and you cannot stop him. I don't even know how you're meant to deal with this brawler. It's just ridiculous. Basically, if the enemies have Bolt, you're going to lose, basically. So yeah, just ensure you're always banning Bolt in the draft, I would say, especially if the enemies have last pick. Okay, up next, we've got the 3rd best brawler in the game, and that's going to be Griff. I'm so happy Griff is actually good right now, because Griff's one of my favourite brawlers as well. And yeah, the recent buff to his, I don't remember what the star power is called, the one that adds an extra row of coins. They made that shoot out faster now. And yeah, Griff's completely broken. He does 1,000,000 damage. He just rips through anything. To put an idea in your head of how much damage he does, on a high safe, 3 Griff ammo takes down an entire safe shield. Yeah, it's crazy. And then you've also got his piggy bank gadget to open up the map, obviously. But then even if you don't want to open up the map, you can use his coin shower gadget, which is genuinely a really good gadget right now as well. Just, it gets you so much zoning. Like, it just forces people to move away from the place that you put the gadget. It's just crazy. Okay, up next, the 2nd best brawler in the game. It's going to be Star Nova. There should be no surprises here. This brawler is completely broken. And it all comes down to her basic attack, really. Her basic attack, it's like, there's no, like travel time of the projectile. It's just instant. If someone's in the range, they instantly take the damage of the attack. What that means is that once you're in range, you can just spam the auto-aim damage and constantly hit everything. So, yeah. It's a very low-skill brawler. Very, very broken. Not much counterplay to it. The only way to counter it, really, is simply to outrange Star Nova. So, yeah. And obviously, she had a recent hypercharge, which is completely broken as well. And just her super form alone is just really, really powerful and hard to kill because of the lifesteal it has. Okay, and then finally, the best brawler in the game right now. I'm sure you already know what it is, but yeah, it's Surge. Like, come on. Everyone knows Surge is the best brawler in the game. He's insane right now. The fact that he can now just straight up start the game with his super, I don't really understand it. Like, it's just way too broken. Like, I don't even know how they can nerf this, to be honest, without just completely changing this. Because just straight up starting with your Surge super, it means you instantly have your first upgrade. And it means you instantly have a way to just jump over a wall and just easily, you know, then get up to your next upgrade as well. It's just... And then, obviously, this isn't even talking about the buffies yet. The buffies, of course, are insanely strong. You know, his shield gadget, where if you get hit, it halves the cooldown of the next gadget. Like, what? That's just crazy. And then, obviously, his hypercharge buffy, you know, he jumps super far, just shoots, like, multiple attacks with 1 ammo. Yeah, it's just crazy broken. Literally, I don't even think there is really a way to counter Surge, honestly. I would just say ban Surge. Like, even in these completely open maps, like Hideout, Shooting Star, New Horizons, Dry Season, you'd think that he wouldn't work. But he just does. You can just first pick him there as well, and he still works. it's completely broken. So yeah, that's going to be all of the S tier brawlers there. So that's the complete tier list here. Let me know what you guys thought about this tier list in the comments. Let me know if there's any brawlers that you would change around or something. And oh yeah, and by the way, I didn't put Nori in this list because he's not available in ranked, but it's pretty obvious when he releases in ranked, he'll be S tier. So yeah. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video here, guys. Obviously, we tried something a bit different here with the tier list. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video and if you found it helpful at all. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.